Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and welcome to FreeThought City. No, FreeThought Hour. Here's me getting mixed up with the name of our new project. I can't tell you much about it yet, but August the 9th, everything will be revealed. Okay? Bear that in mind. So tonight, it's FreeThought Hour, and as usual, I have a guest. Now, I've had a number of different guests. Most of them are ex-theists, but I've had a Jew, a Jehovah's Witness, a Mormon, a Muslim, an Episcopalian. Some of them have been priests or pastors, a Roman Catholic. And tonight, I'm not allowed to say Pentecostalist. I'm told it's not really a word. A Pentecostal person, Katherine Roberts. Meet Katherine.
Hi, John.
Hello, Katherine. How the devil are you?
I'm doing pretty darn good, thanks. How are you?
I'm fine, too.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
It's
Yes.
a beautiful day here.
Well, we've got evening here, although, of course, being close to the longest day, it hasn't got dark yet. As you can see from my window. No, you can't. That's fake. Not real at all. That's a green screen. It looks like that all the time.
Right.
I'm tricking. So, but you live in, is it Nova Scotia?
No, one province east of Nova Scotia. I'm in Newfoundland.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
on the very east coast of Canada. Yeah.
That's the dangly bit that sticks out into the Atlantic.
The dangly bit in the Atlantic. That's us. That's us. Yep.
That's where those brilliant dogs come from, isn't it?
The Newfoundland dogs and, well, I guess Labradors as well. You're a Newfoundland Labrador, but yeah, Newfoundland dogs are huge. Yeah.
I know, yeah. I was raised with Labradors, and they make brilliant house pets, brilliant big dogs that they will look after you.
Yeah, labs are good. We actually have a pit bull, and I think this is probably the 5th pit bull that we've had over the years.
Yeah.
And they get a bad rap. Ours are sweethearts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
She watches over the goats.
As you say, their reputation is not really quite so cuddly as Labradors, is it?
Not quite so, but
no.
Yeah, they're great family pets, I must say.
Good. Anyway, you've also got other animals, I believe.
Yeah. We have a little homestead here. We live right on the Atlantic Ocean. And we don't have a huge property here by any stretch of the imagination, but it's just right for us. We have some goats and some chickens and quail. We raise meat rabbits.
Yeah.
And and we grow cannabis.
Why not? Yes.
Why not? It's legal here in Canada.
I know, yes, and in 1 or 2 other sensible countries too.
Yeah.
Even some of the states. I think there's about 5 states where it's legal for your own consumption. Yeah.
Yeah, at least I would say at least 5. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish they had just decriminalized it instead of, legalizing it, which means that the government got their hands in it because they kind of messed it all up. Now it costs a friggin' fortune to buy an ounce of weed, for goodness sake. And and then they only let people grow 4 plants per household. It's just dumb rules because you can grow 1 plant that you can get, so many ounces off and
make it into a small tree.
Yes. Right. Exactly. So but we have a license to grow more than 4. So that's my husband's hobby. He loves it. He's a real gardener. Yes.
And how far is the sea? Because I'm 10 minutes from the English Channel on foot.
Oh, like just across. It's just like my front yard. my front.
Right.
Oh yeah.
So yeah. So
I can open my window and throw a rock into the Atlantic for sure.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So do you use that? Is that part of your pot, your food supply? Do you fish?
Oh yeah, definitely get codfish during the cod season, and for sure, mussels, lobster. Last year we went and got squid, That was my first time doing that. And yeah, that's a lot of fun. You go down with a flashlight and shine it in the water, and squid light up so you can fish them right out of the water in the dark.
Yeah, makes it easy for them. Yes.
Yeah, it's great here, and we have moose. So that's the plan, is to hunt and fish and grow. We have a garden as well, and if we like, our plan is to be as self-sufficient as possible. We're almost an hour from the nearest service, like gas, groceries, convenience store. Everything is almost an hour away. So you kind of have to be self-sufficient. If you got to drive almost 3 hours,
it's not worth doing that for a pint of milk.
No, if we run out of milk here, we just don't have milk.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. But I wouldn't have it. We wouldn't have it any other way. We really love it here. It's so remote, and I feel like I'm right in the middle of nature, pretty much. We probably see more wildlife than we do people. It's hardly anybody in this community, but 50 people. It's used to be a lot more people here, like when the fishery was really big. But when the bottom fell out of that, I guess now this community is, I think, about 50 people.
Yeah. It sounds idyllic. Yeah.
It's beautiful.
But you've come on an interesting journey.
Haven't I now?
Would you please...
It's been an adventure, John.
I know. Yes. We were talking a bit about it last week when we were setting up the show.
Yeah.
Would you like to tell us about it?
Yeah, sure. I'll in a little bit of a nutshell. I became a Christian at 28, way back in 1996, and I got involved in the church right away. My faith was something that was very real, very genuine to me. I believed that I had a relationship with Jesus Christ, the Holy Spirit, God the Father. I was a Bible literalist, and I started out in ministry, back in the early years. I guess I could say. It makes me feel really old to say the early years, but
you don't look it. You don't look it.
Thank you. I started off with children in children's church, teaching the kids. I did puppets. I did puppet shows, so I would write the puppet shows, and then eventually I got into women's ministries, and I got invited to speak in different places. I eventually became an associate pastor, and then in 2000 and I want to say 2000 and I may be off on my 2011, I think. I became a senior pastor of a small, I guess we would call ourselves like an independent, charismatic, Pentecostal type church. And I got ordained in 2013. This is the nutshell, John.
Well,
I got engaged. I got ordained in 2013. I resigned from the church in 2016, I think, because we were really busy. We had our own business, and I was working, and I just couldn't keep all of it up. So I resigned from that. And then by early 2018, after we sold our business and retired, started thinking about what I believed, and I eventually came to the point where I realized that I was no longer convinced that any gods existed, and I didn't really even know what an atheist really was. I just thought an atheist was somebody who just really didn't like God.
There are
a rebellious person, I thought was an atheist, but I guess with a lot of it, just I reasoned, reasoned my way out. That was, I don't know if that makes any sense, but
it makes sense to me. Yes.
Yeah. And then when I looked at the God belief and the evidence for it, and I realized that everything that I believed was more or less like a house of cards, John. It all kind of came crashing down. And I realized that I believed a lie for 24 years.
Well, that's interesting. So what had changed between you joined when you obviously thought it was a good thing?
Yeah.
And
Well,
then
the first 20 years of my Christian walk, let's say, the first 20 years, I was all in. I mean, I jumped in with both feet. I believed it with my whole existence. It was the center. My faith in God was the center of every single thing that I did. Like the things that how I spoke, or, what I watched on TV, our entertainment, where I went on vacation, how I raised my kids, how I spent my money, what jobs I took, who I hung out with. All of those things were centered around the Bible and, my faith in God. I think what happened, the biggest thing probably was when we retired and I was out of the ministry, and it's like I had a minute, I had a minute to think.
Yes.
And up to that point, if the doors were open in the church, I was there, and I've written Bible studies, and I've preached hundreds of sermons. I was always learning. And so my atheism is a result of me wanting to be the best Christian that I could be and the best Bible believer that I could be.
And then somehow you realize it was a house of cards. That's
it was. I think it was so for some of it, it was a gradual process that took several years. And that was a process of examining the different beliefs that I had, in the Bible, for example, creation versus evolution, or what else? Well, homosexuality was one of the biggest ones for me. I was going to actually write a book on what the Bible said about homosexuality. And I was interviewing people. I was in my research stage. And I met a lot of really great gay Christians. But I couldn't reconcile what the Bible was saying.
Well,
with what I was experiencing in real life. You know what I mean?
All that hatred is misplaced.
Yeah. And so it took hell was another topic. Hell kind of never sat well with me. That is such an extreme punishment for something that people may not even ever hear about.
That's
it just never made sense to me. That part hardly ever made sense to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, if you haven't been brought up in the Abrahamic God, go to hell, and it's not your fault because you were deprived of it in a sense.
And then we only have a few years on Earth, and and some of those are spent as children, and you don't even really start thinking until you're probably 30, for goodness sake, right?
Yeah.
And then so we have a few years to accept and to to believe this plan or whatever, and or go to hell for eternity, burn forever and ever and ever.
Well, I'm an old man, and I'm looking forward to starting thinking sometime soon.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
Anyway,
and then that was kind of the process of working through my theology, my doctrine. And so for a couple of years, I guess you could have called me a deist, even though I had no clue what that was either.
Right.
I just kind of, I felt like obviously there has to be God, because ta-da, here we are. So there has to be a creator.
And there's all this around it.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so I thought, well, like, obviously that was like a given. But I was okay with the fact that I don't know how I would reach this God or know about this God or know what this God wants or expects from me, because I couldn't get behind the Bible anymore. And if I felt like
Yeah.
the only way I knew the God that I knew was through the Bible. And
Yes.
so when I couldn't trust that anymore, I just held on to that God belief for probably a couple of years
Yeah. Yeah.
until someone came along and had a conversation with me about
Oh,
other, theories of where we came from as a species.
right.
And I was 48 years old, and I never thought, hey, you mean this could all exist? There's other theories for how we all came about,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know? And it was that part was like almost like an instant, John. When
Yes.
after that conversation, like within a few days, I guess, like it all kind of, I don't even really want to say fell apart, because I don't feel like I lost anything,
Oh,
you
yes.
know.
I
So
know a lot of people don't like to have it described as losing their faith,
yeah,
because in fact it's a gain.
it's a game. I didn't, yeah, I struggled with this. Like I feel like I lost um at the very beginning. It was like I lost something. It really did feel like a loss. It
Well, I
was
was
a
going to ask
definite
you about that.
grieving.
Did,
Yeah.
did you suffer? Did you lose
Oh yeah.
friends, relatives, society,
Yep.
or were you already in a remote part of the world where that didn't really matter?
Well, I was still here in this remote little
Yeah.
community,
Hmm.
but every single one of my friends are born again Christians.
Hmm.
I didn't know how to function without a belief in God, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. I didn't know
Mm.
how to trust the future, how to go about the future. Like, what about my calling? I always thought I had a
Yeah.
calling,
Yes.
a destiny, and all of this seemed like it was gone. And I had what I consider to be a relationship with Jesus. And then, I went through some counseling for religious trauma
Yes.
afterwards.
Yes.
Um, and I don't know if it was my therapist or my husband's when we were talking about it. And he said, we didn't lose anything because it was never there in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like losing Cinderella.
Yeah. Well, to me, it's like, somebody, a child who just discovers that they've been lied to about Santa Claus.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, you know, but as far as, the whole relationship with Jesus goes, it was 24 years of constant, you know, prayer and Bible study. And, you get in that bubble, right? So everybody around you believes the
I
same
know.
thing.
And I've got a theory. My theory says that the reason you're instructed to do this regular praying, it's regular attending of church,
Mm,
regular events in your lifetime, when you've got to meet up with the faith, like, birth, christening, uh,
right.
um, what's the next thing? Uh, Confirmation,
Oh, yes. Confirmation.
marriage,
Marriages,
and then your
funerals. Yeah.
children's births, and then eventually a funeral. A faith needs all of those interruptions to life, and similarly to the calendar, so that you've got there's something to celebrate in Easter, and then there's midsummer, and then in the case of the Pentecostal church, there's probably Pentecost to
Pentecost.
celebrate.
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
and,
Yeah.
and then there's Christmas, and
Yeah.
so my theory
Yeah.
says the reason you need all of that hammering away at you is because without constant repetition,
hmm
people realize there's nothing there.
Yeah, and that's the thing about Christianity, at least. I mean, I don't want to speak for other religions, but Christianity has a lot of fear and control baked right into it. You
Yes.
know, You're warned to not forsake the assembling of yourselves together.
Yes.
You know, and you're told that you you should be with like-minded people, and you know, going to church is important, and it keeps you
Oh,
in
yes.
that bubble, and you don't think of I hardly read a secular book in 24 years, John.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
But an avid reader. I've read hundreds of books in those years, but
Yeah.
all
Wow.
Christian books. Yeah.
Well, we're social animals, so we
Mhm.
need society,
Mhm.
like interacting with other members of our species, which is why we do this, why you and I do this
Yeah.
sort of thing. And
Exactly.
I know you've been around YouTube a bit in the
I
last
get around, John.
in the last month because you popped up on my friend Chris's show. What's he call it? Six Pack. He's
Oh, I did that last night. That was so much fun. Oh my goodness. I'm hoping he's going to invite me back. I had a lot of fun with them.
he's a lovely guy, isn't he? He's
Yeah, yeah,
Australian and
yeah.
but,
And
his
I did a couple. I did one with the 604 atheist. He's a Canadian. That was a lot of fun as well.
Mhm.
And Myth Vision. Okay, Derek, I got to give a shout out. What a great channel he has.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, he's got a lot of really interesting topics on there.
yeah.
Yeah, it's been fun. I've been enjoying it.
Good. Yeah. Well, I've had Chris on my show a couple of times, and
Oh,
we
okay.
go we go together well because I'm a retired science teacher, and he's um, a history buff. So
Oh, yeah.
when we come up against people who are spouting the Bible, he can do it from a historical angle, and I can do it from a scientific angle.
Right.
So
Right.
we make a
You
good
look like
tandem.
you look like a science teacher, John.
Thank you. I haven't got my lab coat on.
I can picture it.
I'm not sure what a science teacher is supposed to look like.
No. You're right.
Here's my Bunsen burner. No, no, I don't have it. So the other thing I was going to ask you is, how come? I mean, I don't know what education system. I presume it's a Canadian one that you went through.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
I don't know whether it was a Catholic school or anything like that.
No, I had really no exposure to religion until I was 28.
Really?
When I went to church that first time was pretty much I'd gone to 2 funerals before that.
Mm, yeah,
But that was pretty much my first shot at going to church.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But you also obviously had no exposure to evolution before then as well.
Probably not. I mean, I graduated high school in '86. I don't know how much, you know, information we were given at
Mm,
the time. I've always been in like, you know, small town. I grew up in small town Newfoundland.
yeah,
Um, but I knew about evolution all those years.
yeah.
I just thought there was no point for me to look into it because
Right,
obviously it has to be wrong because
I see.
Jesus is right.
Yeah, yeah, I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you resisted it
Yeah, I just thought, sure,
until
science can come up with anything, but
yeah,
the word of God is the absolute authority
right.
and it has to be true.
Yeah,
So, you
yeah,
know, science was automatically wrong.
yeah. So yeah, so if you'll pardon the expression, religion or the Bible trumps science.
Yeah, exactly. I remember having these discussions with my kids growing up. You know,
Yeah.
they're all adults now.
Mm,
Um, but even when they were in school, and they would say, you know, Mom, what about this? And I would say, there's no point for me to look at it. I like they can say anything. Maybe carbon dating is wrong. Maybe they must have that wrong. Their
mm,
foundation must be wrong if they're
mm,
coming up with
yeah,
something other than what's in the Bible.
yeah,
And yeah, it took me a long time
yeah,
to see it. I remember when um, the God Delusion book came out.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Mm.
I thought he was like the Antichrist for sure.
Really?
Oh yes, yeah. And my son wanted to read it, and I was having none of it. There's, you know,
Oh, you forbid your son.
oh
Oh,
yeah. I raised my kids in a very fundamental home. They were so restricted from doing a lot of things.
Yeah.
The way I raise my kids is my biggest regret in life, I
Oh,
must say. Even though I have a great relationship with them and we've talked through all of these things, and they're
yeah.
wonderful humans and very loving and forgiving. But
Yeah.
Jesus, I wish I didn't raise them like that.
Well, there are a lot of parents that have some regret, although, of course, at the time, they thought they were doing it for the best.
That's exactly right. And my kids see that. I've apologized to them to the point
Mm.
where, my youngest said, there's no point to, continue to apologize. We all understand. We all would have done better and would have done
Yeah.
differently.
Yeah.
But
But
everything I did, like everybody I met in the church, John, everybody was, I don't think I met anybody who didn't really believe. I didn't
yeah.
meet any
Mm.
fakes or phonies. I
Well,
never met a pastor who was just out for money. Not
yeah.
that I know of. I didn't even know any pastors who were making any money, for God's sake,
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, we were just all doing the best that we could. I know a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
really intelligent,
Yeah.
beautiful, loving
Mm.
Christians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know where that sort of feeling comes from because I was a minor politician many years ago. And while I was on the local council, and I ended up leader of the opposition on the council. While I was doing that, I felt ever so good about myself. I thought, I'm doing this for the benefit of the
Yeah.
community.
Yeah.
And
Back
that's
when my
the thing.
kids were in grade school,
Yeah.
I probably was in my 30s then. I got on the school, um, well, it would be like the PTA basically. And that was strictly so that I could voice my concern over their treatment of Halloween. My kids never participated in Halloween because I believed it was of the devil, and so I got really involved. My kids weren't allowed to watch the Harry Potter movies or read the book in
Wow. Yes.
school. They
Yes.
weren't allowed to color jack-o'-lanterns or black cats at
Yeah.
Halloween. Yeah.
Well, I don't encourage my kids to take part in Halloween, but not for that reason. I think I don't want them to do it because it's a nasty American custom.
Oh, Halloween was that was a big bee in my bonnet for many years. I thought if a Christian was celebrating Halloween, I thought they were just the biggest fakes.
Yes.
Yeah. I was serious. I felt like if it was real, then it's real. And I
Right.
just believed it all.
Yeah. So let's deal with Lee's question here.
Yeah.
Hello, Lee. Thank you for watching us. When I ask a theist for proof of God, some say you have to have faith.
Right.
God doesn't speak to you, atheists.
Yeah.
So how would you have answered that back then when you
Back
were
then, I would have said the same thing, John.
yeah,
I believe that these were spiritual things, and I would have quoted the verse that said that you have to that they have to be spiritually discerned. And I thought that an atheist would have been spiritually dead and wouldn't have been able to understand these things.
yeah. So
But now I see faith for what it is. Faith is just a bullshit word
yes,
to cover for the fact that you have no reason to believe this.
evidence, yes.
Yeah.
Faith is a poor
Yeah.
substitute for evidence.
I thought, for 24 years, I thought faith was the biggest virtue you could have. The worse the circumstances were that was facing me, the more impossible or improbable,
Mm,
the more it was important for you to have faith. Like it was in the face of evidence against. You know what I mean?
right.
Like,
Mm,
for example, going bullshit word. It is a bullshit word. Um, I know people who have died in faith because they were believing for
yeah,
Jesus to
yeah,
heal
yeah.
them, and that's the truth.
Yeah,
So I think faith is a huge problem in the
it is.
world.
Yes.
People get hurt over faith,
It's a
and people
deception.
think it's a deception. Yeah,
Mm.
it's not a virtue.
So look, I can prove science right now because I'm drinking a green drink, and the technology I'm using makes it appear transparent.
Yeah. Magic. Yeah.
There you go. It even turns me transparent. Look, see. So science works and faith doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I think faith is such a, it makes people say that I have a truth and you have a truth and that person has a truth. And sometimes I feel like saying, listen, there is a truth.
Yes.
Everybody doesn't get their own version of what's true.
No.
It's either true that there's a God or it's not true that there's a God.
Yes.
And I am not willing to, I can't take it by faith. You can't convince yourself of something,
Yeah. Well,
just you can't make yourself believe something.
no. And the very fact that there are lots of faiths must mean that they can't all be right.
Exactly.
But they could all be
I'll
wrong.
be wrong.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. But you mentioned about did I lose my friends and stuff? I lost all of my friends.
Oh, that's
All of my I can't think of any good friends that I have now that I had for all those years.
Were they real friends?
Well, here's the thing. Some of them were, but it's kind of mutual too, because the common ground is gone, and then it's kind of awkward.
Yes.
We don't know what to talk about anymore.
No. There's an elephant in the room, isn't there?
Yeah.
I know you believe this nonsense.
Yeah.
But you know I don't. Yes.
Yeah.
So how are you going to get over that? Yes.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So we were like 50 years old and trying to make new friends, like people from in kindergarten.
Yeah.
It
Well,
was hard, and living so remote. I mean, I was basically on Facebook, like, who wants to be our friend?
please. Yes.
And
Well,
then I had this, people who knew me all my life just saw me as a religious nut. The non-religious people saw me as a religious nut.
Yeah.
And then the religious people saw me like as an evil atheist. So I was kind of.
But this is an interesting thing. Did the non-religious people reject you because you were because they thought you were a religious nut, or did they tolerate you as a religious nut?
When I was a Christian, I don't think I had any friends who weren't Christians. So, I mean, I know I didn't, because I would have not believed in, sharing it with people. Yeah.
Yeah. So religion is very divisive, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It puts up a barrier which says, I think I'm right, and I think you're an idiot.
Yeah. And, I didn't see that for so long. I didn't see the division that it caused, or the judgment that it automatically put you in that seat. It's us and them. It's the saved and the lost. I've preached these sermons. You're on one side or the other.
Yes.
You're either cold or you're hot. And so it's very divisive. But I thought that I had what was right and good, and everybody else needed what I had.
Yes. So you thought you were doing good work by trying to convert them round to your way of thinking.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember just after 9/11, when George W. was president, and he put this in, he illustrated this perfectly by coming on the television and saying, you're either with us or you're against us.
Yeah.
And that was it. I mean, right there, he set the tone of the disagreement. There was no possibility of any persuasive diplomacy going on.
Yeah.
This was antagonism straight out.
Yeah. And Jesus said the same thing. You're either for me or against me. And so, I mean, I took that to heart, and I know now, like, now that I'm not a theist, now that I'm an atheist, I feel connected with humanity. Oh, sorry. I actually feel connected with humanity probably for the first time in decades. I don't
Yes.
feel an us and them.
No.
I
Yeah.
don't feel a need to deconvert anybody
No.
or convert anybody.
No. That's right. We don't. Apart from, I've got a bit of a conflict here because I'm a science teacher and I want to teach everybody science. I want to make sure that they understand evolution, which is difficult to understand. Let's face it. And I want to make sure that they understand geology and carbon dating, which doesn't go back much beyond 50,000 years. So it's very useful for man-made objects or food that's fossilized not fossilized, but it's become part of the detritus of previous civilizations, but it doesn't work for fossils. We have to use other isotopes for fossils. But, I want people to understand these sorts of things.
Yeah.
So although I'm not preaching don't believe in God, in a sense I am, because I'm preaching here's some real information, properly evidenced, substantiated information.
Yeah. I feel the same way. I do. I feel I enjoy talking to people about religion. I enjoy talking to people about why they believe what they believe and challenging them on their faith. But I don't have any pressure to deconvert anyone, which is really it's so freeing.
We tend to be less dogmatic, don't we?
I'm a lot more chill. I'm a lot more chill as an atheist.
Once we've given up the doctrine. Now, Jason is asking here, are there any organizations or programs for approaching churches and pastors on converting their churches or flocks to less mystic and more grounded communities?
Oh, good question.
Absolutely.
I don't know. Well, I don't know of any. I mean, churches are not going to let you get any less churchy as far as I can see. Although there are churches that are getting a lot more inclusive, and there's actually a church here in Canada that has an atheist pastor.
Yes.
I've been to her church.
Yes.
It was so interesting.
Yes. I know this.
It's like it feels just like church.
Yes.
But no Jesus.
Yes. Yes. Well, there's one or two of those. Of course, most of them are in the closet because
that's the thing.
They would have so much to lose if they admit it. In fact, just towards the end of last century, right here in West Sussex, where I'm based, the Bishop of Chichester sacked one of his clergymen. He had a vicar of a parish not far away, and he sacked him for heresy because he said God is the sum total of all our desires and feelings towards each other. He said that God was empathy, effectively. But you can't say that and still keep your job in the church.
Exactly. Yeah. We found the clergy project right away when we deconverted, and it was such a lifesaver, John. They're the ones that hooked us up with some free therapy, with secular therapy, which changed our lives.
That's
it's not an easy thing for someone to discover, because really that's what it is. You discover that you're an atheist. You no longer are convinced. I was as surprised as anyone else that I'm an atheist. It's true. So it's hard, especially for.
I know what you mean.
People
even though you've frozen.
Oh, did I?
That's Dan. His surname's not coming. Clergy Project. Dan.
Oh.
Your name's not coming to your mind either.
Oh, it's just gone. Oh my! I can't believe it's gone out of my head. I can't believe it.
He's great, isn't he?
It'll pop into my head in a moment, and I'll just blurt it out in the middle of something else.
Do so. Yeah, do so. If I find it, I'll do the same. But the other person who might be useful for people who are trying to get out of their religion would be Daryl wouldn't it? It would be
Daryl Ray.
Daryl
Is that
Ray.
who
That's the
you're thinking of?
one. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
I've had him
he's
on
part
my
of the
show.
Clergy Project as well.
Yeah.
Recovering from Religion
Yes.
is a
Yes.
fantastic
Dan Barker.
organization.
Thank you, Jason. Dan Barker.
There you go.
There you go.
I was just going to say that, Jason.
So Jason says, there you are, Clergy Project. But do we have any proactive channels? What, going into churches and trying to deconvert them?
I would volunteer. I'd volunteer if a church will let me in, but I doubt it.
The difficulty would be getting past the door.
Yeah, there's a lot of pastors have a lot of control over who they're going to give their pulpit to, and I can't see any churches being open-minded enough to let an atheist come in and challenge their congregation.
No,
I'd love it.
Yes,
because if what they have is real, they should be able to stand up. It should be able to stand up against some scrutiny.
Well, I've got an opportunity to do that coming up, but first of all, I want to say that just before we started this show, I had a little set to on Facebook with a Pentecostal pastor who complained that I'd called you a Pentecostalist. And apparently that's not a word.
I have no idea.
So
Pentecostalist. Yeah, I've never heard the word, so maybe he's right, John.
Maybe, but that's not the important thing, is it?
No.
Not a word. But so I invited him on this show.
Oh, cool.
Guess what he said?
No.
Yeah.
He is a theist. He is a Pentecostalist.
Yes, but he's not going on the show. He doesn't want his thoughts challenged.
No. Oh, that's too bad. I'd love to speak with them. Pentecostals are a unique group as far as churches go, right?
Yeah, tell us about that, because you've sampled a few different churches, haven't you?
Yeah. I have. I've been to a lot of churches because I've moved 30-something times. I've lived in Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Ontario, Saskatchewan, and Alberta. So
that's pretty much most of Canada.
Half of it, anyway. Half the provinces,
apart from British Columbia and
I'm not rich
Wisconsin.
enough. I'm not rich enough to live in British Columbia.
Oh, yeah.
That's the expensive end of the country over there. They got all the good weather too.
Well, not at the moment. They're a fire. They've lit up.
True. That's true. There's some terrible things happening there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've been to. I have taken my vacations around churches.
Satan's doing that to you.
I know. It's what it is. It's pushing. It's the badness just pushing it right out. Yes. I've rearranged my vacations around churches. I've driven up to Edmonton to hear some speakers. My favorite is the Toronto Airport Church. I don't know if you're familiar with the Toronto Blessing of the 90s. That was a big Pentecostal type charismatic movement. Like a lot of people falling over, laughing, crying, speaking in tongues. They've said that they've had gold dust fall. People have claimed to get gold fillings supernaturally, lose 50 pounds during the service. You name it.
It's more theatrical, isn't it, than a lot of Protestant services?
Oh yeah, it's it is a lot more. Yeah, for sure. We used to do prayer tunnels where people would line up along, and we would take turns running in between, and people would lay hands on you, and you would get what we would call drunk in the spirit and fall out and laugh and
It's one of the more trying to be polite here.
It's unusual. Eccentric is good. Yeah. We
the
used to
Protestant
quote the Bible a lot, where it said that God takes the foolish things of the world to confound the wise. And I was one of the most foolish in there. I rolled around. I was a holy roller with the best of them. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. I won't ask you to do any speaking in tongues right now. But here's a
I can
question
definitely.
from here's a question from an old sparring
Oh,
of mine, Otangelo. He's
yeah,
in Brazil.
yep.
Hello, Otangelo. Thank you for watching. So, how does Katherine substantiate now that the natural physical world is all there is?
How do I substantiate what?
Yeah, I'm not sure what he means by that. Substantiate. Can you explain, Otangelo? Substantiate obviously has some higher thespian meaning or theistic meaning than the one we.
Yeah,
You see,
I'm not sure what it means.
I would.
But
I would take
I'm quite
substantiate.
comfortable with the fact that there is just the natural world. That's all I can account for, or all that I've seen demonstrated. I can point to dozens and dozens and dozens of events over the 20-something years that I called or interpreted as supernatural miracles. That no God is needed to explain the existence of the physical world. I don't have an explanation of where we came from, or you know, um, I'm quite okay with saying I don't know, so I don't
Yeah,
need to put a
yeah,
God
yeah.
in
Well,
there. Perhaps
that,
it's a god. I don't know. It could be a big lizard god with purple feathers and a pink ponytail, and
yeah,
I have no idea. I'm
yeah,
open to anybody demonstrating any kind of supernatural to me. I
yeah.
mean, I believe that I've gotten. I believe that I performed miracles. I believed it,
Right.
and now looking back, there are such simple natural explanations
Yes.
for at least 99% of the things that
Yeah.
I consider to be supernatural.
Mm.
For one thing, there's such a thing as coincidences,
Yeah.
where for
Definitely.
most of my life, if something happened that
Mm.
seemed like it was a pretty strange coincidence, that had to be God,
Mm. Yeah.
right?
And then there's placebo effects where
Exactly.
people are spoken to nicely and they think it cures them, and
Yeah,
then there's natural recovery because
exactly.
a lot of conditions just get better, and
Exactly.
you don't need
Yep.
to attribute it to any god.
Yeah.
No.
I
So
believed myself. I believed that I was delivered from depression, and that's why my indoctrination was so deep.
yeah,
When I got saved, became a Christian, I
yes,
was very depressed and
yes,
suicidal, actually. And I got involved in the church, and I had instant friends and social life, and
yeah, yeah, yeah,
so my depression lifted for a
yes,
time,
of
which
course.
confirmed to me that something supernatural happened.
Mm,
And so, it sets you up to be indoctrinated pretty quickly.
yes,
And
yes.
looking back over my life, I think it's funny that I thought I was delivered from depression, because I can point to so many episodes of depression in 20 years. I just called them spiritual attacks, right?
Uh, mm, mm.
Yeah. And refused medication because that's lack of faith,
Oh, right. Yes.
right?
And the church
Do you see my mug, by the way?
still slightly
Yeah.
bonkers. Yes.
Yeah. So when I did Myth Vision, that was one of
Mm,
the comments that someone said, I think she's still slightly bonkers. And I took it as a compliment,
yes, yes.
because they think I'm only slightly bonkers.
Excellent. Yeah. I must get one of those. So
um,
the churches prey on this sort of thing, though, don't they? They they positively go out and search for people who are a bit unwell in
yes,
hospitals, for
but
example, and
I,
they try to recruit them because they know they're vulnerable then.
yeah, but I would have to take issue with you saying that they prey on people. And I'm sure there are some. For me, it was like I really believed that our church had something that could help that person. So
yes.
we went out looking for, so,
Yeah.
we did look for people who needed help, who needed,
Yeah. You didn't do it as a predator.
No, exactly. And so what happens then is you get a lot of people who are emotionally unwell or mentally ill, down and out on their luck, people who
Yes.
are lonely and depressed and
People
dejected. Those are the ones in the church.
People who need saving.
Right.
Yes.
And then you get in there and that's why it's so hard to
Yes.
see beyond it, because it becomes your entire life.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So, well, I don't know what now.
I'm having fun chatting with you, John.
Good. Yeah, I'm enjoying it. Come again.
Maybe I'm chatting at you more than with you, but
No,
forgive me.
I think it's equal. If I want to shut you up, I can. I can turn your mic off.
Sure. I just got to blame the preacher in me,
Yeah, well, that's a question that Jason is asking here. Look, he's saying, no, not that one. I saw it somewhere here. Where's it gone? Do you feel there's still a need to lead? I can't
Do
find
I
it.
still feel a need to lead? That's an interesting question, and it's something that I mean, I have to admit that I consider it and struggle with it sometimes, because a part of me feels like, listen, Katherine, you wasted 24 years of your freaking life already. Just shut up, stop talking about God. But at the same time, I'm still the same person that I've always been. And I still love talking to people. I still love teaching. I still, I still love to be involved. So, and I do feel like I have a lot of experiences that I can share with people. So
Yeah.
I guess the motivation is probably what's really different.
As I said, I'm a teacher by profession, so of course I lead. That's what I do. Yeah. So Lee says, if everything has a creator, why is this God eternal? Yeah, because you would think he'd do the creation and then bugger off.
Well, yeah. Plus, if everything needs a creator, then how can God be eternal? Because if the universe needed a creator, then God needed a creator. So how could God be eternal? And we were born on, I'll see your view on, we are born atheists. I don't really like that phrase, we're born atheists, because we're not born atheists. We're born not knowing anything about any, not having an opinion.
Yes.
But
well,
I think when most people say that is really what they mean is, if we weren't indoctrinated as a society at an early age, there wouldn't be an inherent knowledge of God. I don't, of some kind of a God.
You're right, of course, because we are born not only without any beliefs,
right,
but without eyes that can see. There's a few weeks before a baby can make a picture.
Right.
Their eyes. If you look at their pupils, they don't open and shut properly because they're still, the brain's still developing.
Right.
So if we can't use our eyes, obviously we're empty inside. We don't have any belief systems.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by being an atheist. But of course, the word atheist has been tainted with all this nonsense that it's a belief system. It's not.
Oh, that just really irritates me when people say that. I've had an ongoing online argument with someone who insists that atheism is a religion, and it's like, it drives me nuts. Like, no, I know what religion is, and this ain't it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So what else have we got in the questions here? Which God? Yes.
Great questions too. Great questions.
Yeah. Well, there's so many.
I'll talk about what my life is like since becoming an atheist. I find it funny that people think that atheists must be sad and and depressed and have no plans or goals or anything, but this is the best life. I'm living the best life that I've lived.
Yeah. Great.
You know, I'm 53 now, and I feel connected with society, with humans, with nature,
With reality.
with myself.
Yes.
I'm okay with who I am. I
Yes.
don't, it's just it
You,
it
you
is like
don't
a completely different life.
you don't feel the shame that
Oh yeah,
religions force upon you.
yeah.
Very. Mm,
Even the restrictions. It's
yeah.
funny because I used to sing a lot about being free when I was a Christian. All those songs, you jump up and down and you're
Yes.
dancing around and praise God, I'm free. And
Yes.
at the same time, I
No,
wasn't
you're
even
not.
really free to look up, to look at a book that had a
Yes.
different.
Yes. You're
Yeah.
free as long as you don't criticize me.
You're free as long as you believe all of these things. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Can
So,
meaningful information emerge by
well,
chance?
Atangelo, as I said, he's an old sparring partner of mine, and
Is
he,
Otangelo the same one? I was
yes,
speaking with what's his name, Dark Dawkins, last night, and he said that
well, he probably,
Otangelo owes him an apology. I don't know
yes.
what happened to these two, but apparently.
Well, Otangelo is all over the internet. He's a keen person on. I think he's something to do with computer information or something. That's his background.
Oh, okay.
So he's asking here: can meaningful information emerge by chance? And if not, how can you believe that instructional and assembly information stored in genes emerge randomly? Well, we don't know, Otangelo, but not knowing doesn't mean your God done it.
Instructional assembly information
Yes,
stored in genes. So I'm assuming that you look at you're just using an argument of design. You're saying that we're so intricately designed that there had to be a creator. I don't know what I'm trying to think. I want to know what's going on. I need to know the backstory here.
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah,
So
I don't have all of the answers.
no,
You can talk to me
exactly.
about biology all you want. I'm not a Listen, the devil keeps kicking this thing out.
Yes,
I'm not a biologist. I'm not a
no,
scientist. I spent 20 something years as a pastor.
yeah,
Um, I'm a paralegal. I'm educated. I'm
yeah,
intelligent, but I don't know biology.
no.
But it doesn't matter. If I knew all of the
No,
biology that there
exactly.
is, it
Well,
doesn't matter.
I do know a bit about biology because I used to teach it up to kids who were going into university. And some of the kids I taught ended up in Oxford or Cambridge, so I knew a fair bit about biology, even if I've forgotten some of it since. But the point is, these are questions that we don't yet know the answer to.
Right.
But honesty and an honorable nature makes us not wish to claim to know the answer to.
Yeah.
Which in my view is where Otangelo's going wrong. Look, he's saying atheism. He thinks atheism is an ideology. That's right.
Atheism provides no answers because atheism doesn't ask a question.
Well, that's right.
It provides no
Why
answers
should it?
other than
Why should disbelief provide answers?
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
yeah.
How could let's just pinpoint it down to one person. How could my atheism, how
Yeah.
can my not being convinced of your God
Yeah.
be an answer to anything? It's not even. It's like you're talking apples and oranges.
Exactly.
I don't purport to know anything.
Yeah.
I knew all kinds of shit when I was a Christian.
Yes. Well, you claimed.
Now I don't.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. Yes. That's
Exactly.
right. Yeah.
I'm a lot more honest now. I can't. I mean, I can't claim to know something that I don't. So it
Exactly.
feels. I'm sure it feels very good to be able to say, oh, well, the atheists don't know about this. Well, then that is proof that what I believe is true. But
No, it
that's not
isn't.
the case.
No,
I
it
mean,
isn't.
if
It's
you got
proof.
some evidence for your God, I mean, you can bring it. I
Yes.
would love to
Yes.
know if there's a God.
Yes.
Love it.
It's no more proof of their God than it is proof of Unkalunkalu, which is
Exactly.
the South African creator God. Yeah. But do you know, we've done an hour of this rabbiting together, and
Ah,
that
time
means,
flies.
yeah, that means I've got to bring the show to an end,
Okay.
sadly. But I want to tell people that next week there will be a show at the same time following Global Atheist News, because we do the two shows one after the other. And the next week's guest, I believe, is a guy called Tim Hull. Now, I've met him on Facebook or Twitter somewhere, and he's got his own channel. And he's an interesting guy because I can't make out whether he's a believer or not.
Mm.
So that'll be an interesting conversation.
Mm. You haven't asked him. He hasn't.
And no, I haven't. I'm leaving.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm leaving.
I'll look forward to watching that one.
Yeah, great. Please do. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I shall make a poster and put it on the same channels at the same time.
Yeah.
Great. So, thank you very much, Katherine. I thoroughly enjoyed this little contretemps with you. And
me too. I enjoyed it too. If your listeners want to look me up on Facebook, I have a group there called Unordained.
And your blog too.
And yes,
Same
name.
Unordained. Yes, I'll
Yes.
put that in the notes afterwards.
That's great. I had a great time chatting with you, John.
Great, and thank you very much to the audience.
Yeah,
And
that's great questions. I enjoyed it.
See you again next time. Here we go for the outro. This is your own outro with your name. Bye-bye.